your behavior while you're in the confines of the French Quarter can really get away from you.
Halloween night, 1993. Thousands of fans gathered in Vancouver expecting another unforgettable Blind Melon performance. But when frontman Shannon Hoon walked on stage, the crowd witnessed something shocking. He wasn't wearing a costume, he was completely naked. The bizarre incident ended with his arrest and became a symbol of his struggles. Yet behind the controversy was a gifted musician from Indiana who dreamed of creating meaningful music. Blind Melon's success was enormous, but fame, addiction, and personal battles slowly began to destroy the life of one of alternative rock's most unique voices. Chapter 1: The Boy Who Dreamed of Music. Long before stadium crowds knew his name, Shannon Hoon grew up in Lafayette, Indiana, surrounded by a family that encouraged creativity and self-expression. Music became part of his life at an early age, and unlike many teenagers of the 1980s who were obsessed with the latest hits, Hoon found himself drawn to artists from an earlier generation. He admired the poetic songwriting of Bob Dylan, the timeless melodies of the Beatles, and the free-spirited performances of the Grateful Dead. Among all of them, John Lennon left perhaps the deepest impression. Hoon wasn't interested in simply becoming famous. He wanted to write songs that carried emotion and honesty. Ironically, his first steps into music didn't resemble the gentle, folk-inspired sound he would later become known for. As a teenager, he joined a local glam metal band called Stiff Chitin, embracing the flashy style that dominated rock music during the mid-1980s. The long hair, loud guitars, and theatrical performances gave him valuable experience as a frontman. Standing in front of a crowd no longer frightened him. In fact, he seemed born for it. Even during those early years, Hoon showed signs that he was more than just another aspiring rock singer. He began writing original songs, pouring his thoughts into lyrics that reflected hope, uncertainty, and personal growth. One of those songs was called Change. At the time, it was simply another composition by an ambitious young musician. No one, not even Hoon himself, could have predicted that Change would eventually become one of Blind Melon's most beloved songs. By the age of 23, Shannon realized that staying in Indiana would never bring him the career he imagined. Like thousands of hopeful musicians before him, he packed his belongings and headed west to Los Angeles. The city was overflowing with dreamers. Every club seemed to feature another band hoping to become the next Guns N' Roses or Metallica. Competition was fierce, opportunities were rare, and success was never guaranteed. But Shannon Hoon believed his chance was waiting somewhere in Los Angeles. He just had no idea how quickly his life was about to change. Chapter 2: The Birth of Blind Melon. In the early 1990s, Los Angeles was filled with thousands of musicians chasing the same dream, finding fame, signing a record deal, and changing rock music forever. Among them was Shannon Hoon, a young singer from Indiana searching for his place in a crowded scene. Everything changed when he performed his original song Change at a party. Two musicians, bassist Brad Smith and guitarist Roger Stevens, heard his voice and immediately recognized something special. It wasn't just his talent, it was the emotion and honesty behind every word. They invited Shannon to join their new band, and he accepted. That moment marked the beginning of Blind Melon. Soon, guitarist Christopher Thorne and drummer Glenn Graham joined the group. Together, they created a unique sound that blended folk, classic rock, psychedelia, and alternative influences. While other bands were following trends, Blind Melon wanted to create music that felt genuine and different. The band spent years performing in small clubs, writing songs, and developing their chemistry. Shannon quickly became known as an unpredictable but unforgettable frontman. His performances were full of emotion, energy, and personality. During this period, Shannon carried a video camera everywhere, recording rehearsals, tours, and personal moments. Those recordings would later become a rare glimpse into his life and the journey of Blind Melon. Eventually, their demo reached people connected to Capitol Records, and the band earned a major recording contract. But success did not come easily. Their first studio sessions left them frustrated because the polished recordings didn't capture the raw feeling that made them unique. Around the same time, Shannon received another incredible opportunity. His childhood friend Axl Rose invited him to contribute vocals during the recording of Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion albums. Shannon appeared on songs like November Rain, The Garden, and Don't Cry, introducing his voice to millions of listeners worldwide. However, this exposure also brought him closer to the dangerous side of rock stardom. Fame, parties, and temptation surrounded him. Seeking a fresh start, Blind Melon left Los Angeles and moved to North Carolina to focus on their own music. There, they would create the album that would transform them from unknown musicians into international stars. Chapter 3: Overnight Success. By the time Blind Melon recorded their debut album, the band had finally discovered their true identity. Moving away from Los Angeles' hard rock scene, they created a unique sound combining folk, blues, psychedelia, and alternative rock. Their music felt different from the grunge movement dominating the early 1990s. Released in 1992, their self-titled debut album received positive reviews but struggled commercially. The band had worked for years to reach this moment, yet suddenly, it seemed like nobody was listening. Shannon Hoon faced the disappointment personally, wondering if all his sacrifices had been worth it. Then came MTV. Music videos had the power to turn unknown artists into global stars, and Blind Melon needed that opportunity. Their first single, Tones of Home, failed to create a major impact, but their next release, No Rain, changed everything. The song initially received little attention, until its unforgettable music video captured the world's imagination. Instead of focusing on the band, the video followed a lonely girl wearing a bee costume who searched for a place where she belonged. When she finally found others like herself, millions of viewers connected with the message of acceptance and individuality. The video became an MTV sensation. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know who Blind Melon was. No Rain climbed the charts. Radio stations played it constantly, and their debut album began selling millions of copies. A band that had struggled for recognition only months earlier became one of alternative rock's biggest success stories. For Shannon Hoon, it was the dream he had always chased. His emotional voice and unpredictable personality made him stand out from other rock singers. Fans admired his honesty and saw him as a genuine artist rather than a manufactured celebrity. Blind Melon began performing in huge venues and sharing stages with legendary acts. Interviews, magazine covers, and sold-out concerts became part of their new reality. But success came with a hidden cost. The endless touring schedule brought exhaustion, pressure, and constant exposure to the darker side of fame. Parties, alcohol, and drugs became common parts of life on the road. At first, it seemed like normal rock and roll behavior. But slowly, the lifestyle that helped create Blind Melon's fame began becoming the force that threatened to destroy Shannon Hoon's future. The dream he had spent years chasing had finally arrived, but it came with dangers he never expected. Chapter 4: Addiction Takes Control. As Blind Melon's fame grew, so did the pressure surrounding the band. The small clubs were replaced by sold-out venues, constant travel, interviews, and expectations to create another major hit. From the outside, Shannon Hoon appeared to be living the dream of every musician. But behind the success, his personal life was beginning to fall apart. The endless touring schedule brought exhaustion, loneliness, and stress. With little time to rest, Shannon turned to alcohol and drugs as a way to escape the pressure. What began as part of the rock and roll lifestyle slowly became a serious addiction. Friends noticed the changes. The energetic and charismatic singer they knew became unpredictable. Some days he was creative and full of life, while others he struggled with silence, confusion, and emotional instability. The band tried to help, But addiction was a battle Shannon had to face himself. He entered rehabilitation multiple times, and each return brought hope that he had finally found control. However, staying sober proved much harder than achieving sobriety. During this difficult period, one person remained a constant source of support: his longtime girlfriend, Lisa Krause. She had known Shannon before fame changed his life, and remembered the person he was before the success. In July 1995, Shannon experienced a life-changing moment when his daughter, Nico Blue Hoon, was born. Becoming a father gave him a new reason to fight. He wanted to stay clean, watch his daughter grow up, and build a better future. For a short time, it seemed like he was finally turning his life around. Blind Melon also released their second album, Soup, in 1995. The record showed a more mature and experimental side of the band, featuring darker lyrics and a more complex sound. Critics praised its creativity, but commercially it failed to reach the success of No Rain. Soon, the pressure to tour returned. Many people close to Shannon worried because he had only recently completed rehabilitation. Returning to the road meant facing the same environment filled with stress, temptation, and easy access to drugs. A counselor was hired to support him during the tour, but after only a short time, that support disappeared. As Blind Melon continued performing, Shannon seemed determined to keep going. Some nights he reminded fans why they loved him. Other nights, the warning signs returned. Everyone around him hoped he would overcome his struggles. No one knew they were approaching the final days of his life. Chapter 5: The Final Tour. By October 1995, Blind Melon was touring to promote Soup. Although critics praised the album, it failed to achieve the commercial success expected by the record label. Every concert felt like an opportunity to prove that Blind Melon was more than just the band behind No Rain. To fans, everything appeared normal. But behind the scenes, Shannon Hoon was fighting a battle that was becoming impossible to hide. After the birth of his daughter, Nico Blue, Shannon had a reason to change. He wanted to stay sober, become a better father, and create a future beyond the chaos of fame. However, recovery was not simple. Life on tour returned him to the same environment that had fueled his addiction: constant travel, sleepless nights, loneliness, and easy access to drugs. On October 20th, Blind Melon performed at the Numbers Club in Houston, Texas. Before the show, something felt different. According to guitarist Christopher Thorne, Shannon had used drugs before going on stage. His energy was gone, his movements were slower, and his performance lacked the passion fans expected. For Shannon, it was devastating. Music was not just his job, it was his identity. He felt deeply disappointed whenever he believed he had failed the audience. The next day, the band traveled to New Orleans, a city that held special memories because they had recorded Soup there. But instead of feeling at home, Shannon arrived feeling frustrated and emotionally exhausted. That night, he left the tour bus alone. He walked through the streets of New Orleans searching for drugs. No one knows exactly where he went or what happened during those final hours. Before sunrise, Shannon returned to the bus and quietly went to sleep in his bunk. The next morning, the band prepared for another performance. Crew members worked on equipment while everyone waited for Shannon to wake up. But he never did. When the sound engineer entered the bus, he discovered the heartbreaking truth. Shannon Hoon was not sleeping. Emergency responders arrived, but they could not save him. At only 28 years old, Shannon Hoon was pronounced dead from an accidental drug overdose. The news shocked the music world. Just a few years earlier, Blind Melon had seemed unstoppable. Their songs had touched millions, and Shannon's voice had become one of alternative rock's most recognizable sounds. For the band, the loss was unbearable. They had not only lost their singer, they had lost their friend. They lost the person who brought energy, humor, and emotion into every moment. His daughter, Nico Blue, was only 13 weeks old. Shannon had dreamed of watching her grow up, but she would know him through memories, videos, and the music he left behind. He was buried in Indiana beneath a gravestone featuring words from his song, Change. It was a fitting final message for a man who spent his life searching for something better. But in the end, change came too late. The world had lost one of its most unique voices, and Blind Melon would never be the same again. Chapter 6: The Aftermath and the Search for a Future. The morning after Shannon Hoon's death, Blind Melon's world completely stopped. After years of chasing success, recording albums, and performing around the world, the band suddenly faced their greatest loss. Shannon was not just the lead singer. He was the heart of Blind Melon. Without him, the future of the band became uncertain. Christopher Thorne, Roger Stevens, Brad Smith, and Glenn Graham were left with a question they never expected to answer. Could Blind Melon continue without Shannon Hoon? At first, the thought seemed impossible. They were not thinking about new music or future tours. They were grieving a friend who had shared their dreams, struggles, and unforgettable memories. Many fans believed Blind Melon's story had ended that day in New Orleans. But for the remaining members, leaving the band behind was not easy. Blind Melon was built on years of friendship and creativity. Every song represented a piece of their journey together. Walking away would feel like losing Shannon all over again. However, one truth was impossible to ignore. No one could replace Shannon Hoon. His voice, personality, and unpredictable stage presence were unique. Trying to simply find another singer would never bring back what they had lost. For a while, the band stepped away from the spotlight. They needed time to heal and understand their future without their longtime friend. Meanwhile, fans continued mourning around the world. Songs that once represented happiness and freedom now carried a deeper meaning. No Rain became more than a famous hit. It became a reminder of a talented artist whose life ended too soon. But Shannon's legacy was never only about his struggles. Over time, people began remembering the musician behind the headlines. They remembered his emotional performances, his songwriting, and his ability to turn personal pain into powerful music. His second album, Soup, gained greater appreciation after his death. Many listeners recognized it as one of Blind Melon's most ambitious works, showing a deeper and more vulnerable side of Shannon. Songs like Galaxy and Change revealed an artist searching for answers, understanding himself, and trying to find meaning in life. Shannon's story became a reminder that fame does not erase personal battles. Behind the success was a young man who wanted to be a great musician and a loving father. For his daughter, Nico Blue, the loss was heartbreaking. She would never experience the everyday moments of growing up with her father. Instead, she would know him through memories, recordings, and the music he left behind. Years later, Blind Melon attempted to continue their journey while honoring Shannon's legacy. They were not trying to replace him. They were trying to preserve what they had created together. Because some artists cannot be replaced. They can only be remembered. And decades after Shannon Hoon's passing, his voice continues to inspire new generations, proving that great music never truly disappears. It lives on through the people who listen, remember, and find comfort in the songs left behind.
Like and subscribe.